Imagine living in a world where a simple no could cost you everything, where love, or rather the rejection of it, could ignite a firestorm of accusations, threats, and even violence. That was my reality, a stark contrast to the familiar comfort of my American life. My name is Benjamin, and this is the story of how a professional opportunity morphed into a desperate fight for survival, and ultimately, a journey back to the very person who tried to destroy me. It all began innocently enough. December 2011, a chilly New York City. I was at a tech conference, mingling, networking, doing what software engineers and cybersecurity experts do. That's where I met Mr. Ahmed, a distinguished Pakistani businessman. He was sharp, articulate, and carried an air of quiet authority. We chatted about the burgeoning tech landscape, and when he learned about my expertise, his eyes lit up. He owned a thriving tech company back in Pakistan, and he was keen on expanding his operations. An offer was made. Come work for him. Help him build his cybersecurity division. The prospect was exhilarating. A new country, a new culture, a chance to make a real impact. I accepted. Early 2012 saw me packing my bags, leaving behind the skyscrapers of New York for the bustling streets of Pakistan. The initial weeks were a blur of new experiences, the vibrant colors, the aromatic spices, the rhythmic call to prayer echoing through the city. Mr. Ahmed's company was impressive, a modern hub of innovation in a city steeped in tradition. And there, amidst the buzz of coding and network diagrams, I met Fatima. She was Mr. Ahmed's daughter, and she worked alongside him, her intelligence as striking as her beauty. Her eyes, framed by the soft veil of her hijab, held a captivating depth. For the first 6 months, our interactions were purely professional, collaborative, respectful. Then, subtly at first, things began to shift. She started seeking me out more often, lingering after meetings, asking about my life in the States. Her questions grew more personal, her gaze more intense. I'd catch her watching me across the office, a curious, almost hungry look in her eyes. It was flattering, I won't lie. Fatima was undeniably beautiful and intelligent and carried herself with an alluring grace. But a knot of unease began to tighten in my stomach. Then came the direct approach, delivered with a shy smile that couldn't quite mask the determination in her voice. "Benjamin," she'd said, her voice a soft murmur, I would like us to be more than colleagues." My heart did a strange little flip. It wasn't that I didn't find her attractive, quite the opposite, but I knew the environment I was in. I had heard the whispers, read the chilling news stories. Pakistan, for all its beauty and warmth, had a darker undercurrent, a strict adherence to religious laws that could be weaponized by jealousy or perceived slights. The concept of honor killings, of public accusations of blasphemy leading to mob justice, was a stark reality. To engage in a relationship with a local woman, especially the daughter of my boss, felt like walking a tightrope over a chasm. The risk was too great. I tried to be gentle, to let her down easily. I mumbled something about focusing on my work, about cultural differences, about not wanting to complicate professional relationships. She persisted, her pleas becoming more fervent. "Benjamin, you don't understand," she'd pleaded one afternoon, her voice barely a whisper, her eyes wide with a desperate hope. "I want to be an American citizen. I want to live in the United States. You could be my link." It hit me then. I wasn't just a man she was attracted to. I was a means to an end, a stepping stone to a dream she desperately craved. That made my refusal even more crucial. I continued to offer flimsy excuses, deflecting her invitations to spend time together outside of work. When she suggested visiting my apartment, I invented a fictitious roommate and a strict landlord. The rejections, however veiled, chipped away at her patience. One afternoon, after another polite but firm refusal from my end, her composure shattered. Her voice, usually soft, rose in a crescendo of frustrated anger. "You think you're so high and mighty, don't you, with your American ways?" she spat, her face contorted with fury. "You'll find out soon enough. Benjamin, you're in Pakistan now." The words hung in the air, cold and sharp, a stark warning. A chill ran down my spine. The subtle threats were unmistakable. I dismissed it at first, a woman scorned, lashing out. But then the feeling began. A prickle at the back of my neck, a sense of being watched. After work, I started noticing things. A motorcycle idling a little too long down the street, a figure in the shadows of an alleyway, seemingly looking in my direction. Paranoia? Maybe, but I wasn't going to take any chances. My cybersecurity instincts kicked in. I became a ghost, altering my routes home daily, never taking the same turn twice, always aware of my surroundings. I varied my departure times, sometimes staying late, sometimes leaving early. My once routine commute became a high-stakes game of evasion. This unnerving dance continued for 3 agonizing months. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every unfamiliar face a potential danger. The city, once vibrant and exciting, now felt like a labyrinth of unseen eyes. I slept fitfully, my mind replaying every suspicious glance, every unusual sound. The stress was immense, a constant hum of anxiety beneath the surface of my daily life. One evening, the air thick with a scent of dust and exhaust, I was waiting for a local bus. I usually took 2 different buses and then walked a short distance to my apartment. My routine had become second nature, a carefully constructed shield against the unseen threat. Suddenly, 2 men emerged from the deepening twilight, their faces grim, their eyes narrowed. My heart leaped into my throat. This wasn't a casual encounter. They walked directly towards me, their strides purposeful. One of them, a stocky man with a rough beard, held out a torn, crumpled piece of paper. It looked disturbingly like a page from a Koran. "You," he snarled, his voice a low growl. "You desecrated this. You dishonored our faith." My blood ran cold. The accusation, so common, so potent in this country, was precisely what I had feared. It was the oldest trick in the book, a weapon disguised as religious zealotry, used to condemn anyone deemed an infidel or an enemy. A wave of adrenaline surged through me. My mind raced, flashing through every news report, every grim anecdote I had ever heard about mob violence, about jungle justice dispensed in the streets. "What are you talking about?" I demanded, my voice surprisingly steady despite the terror gripping me. "I haven't touched anything like that." "Don't lie!" the other man, taller and leaner, shouted, grabbing my arm. "We saw you. You defiled it." They started dragging me, their grip like iron. Passers-by began to slow, their eyes drawn to the commotion. A crowd was already starting to form, their faces a mixture of curiosity and growing indignation. Shouts of "infidel" and "blasphemer" began to erupt from the gathering throng. I could feel the current of anger rising, a palpable threat in the air. This was it. This was the setup. Fatima, it had to be. Everything I had learned, every self-defense technique I had practiced, suddenly coalesced in my mind. Years of karate and taekwondo training, once just a hobby, were now my only hope. I had mere seconds before the mob became a lynch mob. With a sudden surge of strength, I lashed out. A swift, powerful kick connected with the stocky man's gut. He grunted, stumbling backward, his grip loosening. Before the taller man could react, I brought my forehead down with brutal force, a headbutt striking him squarely on the nose. He cried out, a sharp yelp of pain, and released my arm, clutching his face. Seizing the opportunity, I grabbed his wrist, twisting it with all my might. A sickening crack echoed in the night as he screamed, his knees buckling. I didn't wait. I turned and ran, my legs pumping, the shouts and curses of the gathering crowd fading behind me. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to get away. I sprinted through narrow alleys, vaulted over low walls, weaving through the chaotic streets like a man possessed. My lungs burned, my heart hammered against my ribs, but the fear of what would happen if they caught me propelled me forward. I didn't stop until I was certain I was clear, my body trembling with the aftershocks of adrenaline. It was late, the city cloaked in the deep purple of twilight. When I finally reached my apartment, my hands were shaking as I fumbled with a lock. Once inside, I didn't even turn on the lights. I moved like a phantom, grabbing my passport, my wallet, and a small bag with a change of clothes. Every nerve ending screamed at me to leave, to disappear. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. Fatima had truly tried to have me killed. The beautiful, intelligent woman who had pursued me so relentlessly had orchestrated this terrifying setup. It was almost impossible to comprehend. I slipped out of the apartment building, melting into the shadows. I didn't dare go to the bus stop. Instead, I hailed a taxi from a quieter street, paying extra to be taken to a hotel far across the city, a place where I was sure I wouldn't be traced. That night, I slept fitfully, my mind replaying the terror of the attack, the cold fury in those men's eyes. I was alive, yes, but the threat was very real. Pakistan was no longer safe for me. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, I was at the airport. The check-in process felt agonizingly slow, every minute a lifetime. I didn't breathe easily until the plane was airborne, its engines roaring a promise of safety. As the sprawling cityscape of Pakistan receded below, a wave of relief washed over me, mingling with a deep sense of betrayal and disbelief. I was going home. The moment I landed back in the States, jet-lagged and emotionally drained, I made 2 calls. The first was to my family, assuring them I was safe. The second, after much deliberation, was to Mr. Ahmed. I recounted everything, my voice trembling with residual fear and anger Fatima's persistence, her threats, the terrifying ambush, the fabricated blasphemy charge. I explained my immediate departure, my resignation. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, a silence that spoke volumes. Then Mr. Ahmed's voice, usually so composed, exploded with a raw, furious disbelief. "Fatima did what?" he roared, his voice laced with outrage. This is an outrage. My own daughter. I will deal with her. Benjamin, you have my word. This shameful behavior will not go unpunished." He sounded genuinely mortified, a man whose pride and family honor had been deeply wounded. A month passed. Life slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. I found a new job, settled back into my routine, but the events in Pakistan lingered like a phantom limb, a constant reminder of how quickly life could turn. Then an email arrived. Unknown sender. The subject line was simply, "Meeting." My cybersecurity instincts immediately flagged it. I was wary, but curiosity, and perhaps a flicker of hope for closure, compelled me to open it. The message was brief, cryptic, and requested a meeting in a public, neutral location. I chose a bustling park in the heart of the city, a place with plenty of witnesses and easy escape routes. I arrived early, sitting on a bench, observing everyone who entered. My heart gave a jolt when I saw her. A woman, slender and elegant, approached with a confident stride. She wore dark sunglasses that completely obscured her eyes, but her posture, her general demeanor, screamed American. Then she removed the sunglasses. My breath caught in my throat. It was Fatima, but not the Fatima I remembered. Gone was the hijab, replaced by a simple pair of jeans and a fitted T-shirt. Her hair, which I had only ever seen peeking out from under her headscarf, was now loose, falling in soft waves around her shoulders. It was a complete transformation. If I hadn't known to expect her, if she hadn't removed those sunglasses, I would have walked right past her, never recognizing the woman who had tried to have me killed. Her eyes, those captivating eyes, were filled with a raw, desperate apology. "Benjamin," she began, her voice hoarse, I know you must hate me." I said nothing, just stared, trying to reconcile the 2 images of her in my mind, the vengeful woman and this vulnerable figure before me. "I am so sorry," she continued, tears welling in her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. I was foolish, desperate. I didn't know what I was doing. I was so angry, so humiliated by my father's reaction. He found out, Benjamin. He was furious. He disowned me. She paused, taking a shaky breath. I'm being searched for everywhere in Pakistan. If I go back, if my relatives find me, I could be a victim of honor killing. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken dread. Honor killing, I had read about it. A brutal custom where family members murdered a female relative to restore the family's honor if she had brought shame upon them. And Fatima, by pursuing a foreign man, by her public display of defiance, had certainly done something shameful in the eyes of her conservative family. She had defied tradition, pursued a relationship outside of cultural norms, and then, in her anger, had escalated the situation to a point of no return. Her father's outrage, his disowning her, had set a dangerous precedent. She looked utterly broken, her eyes pleading for understanding, for forgiveness. The desperate ambition that had driven her to such extreme measures seemed to have been completely extinguished, replaced by a profound fear and regret. "Please, Benjamin," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I have nothing left. I applied for asylum here. I'm on my own." I looked at her, truly looked at her, and something shifted within me. The anger, the fear, the betrayal, all of it began to recede, replaced by a strange mix of pity and a nascent, unsettling understanding. She had been desperate, caught between two worlds, two sets of expectations. She had made a terrible, unforgivable mistake, but she was paying a heavy price for it. It was a long moment, filled with the murmuring sounds of the park, before I finally nodded. "I forgive you, Fatima," I said, the words feeling foreign on my tongue. It wasn't easy, but seeing her so utterly stripped of her former bravado, so vulnerable, something softened in my heart. And so, Fatima remained in the United States, granted asylum. We started seeing each other, cautiously at first, then more regularly. Our meetings were often at my apartment or quiet cafes. Each time, I could still see it in her eyes, a lingering affection, a subtle craving that she couldn't yet voice. And to my surprise, I began to feel it too. The old barriers, the fear of the religious environment, the cultural chasm, were gone. She was here, in my world, under the protective umbrella of American law. The logical obstacles had vanished. But the memory, the chilling knowledge that she had once wanted me dead, was a persistent specter between us. It was a difficult hurdle to overcome, a dark stain on any potential future. I wrestled with it for months, the logical part of my brain screaming no, while my heart, inexplicably, began to whisper maybe. There was something undeniably captivating about her, a vulnerability that now drew me in, a shared history, however traumatic, that bound us. Eventually, I made a decision. I decided to let go of the past, to embrace the possibility of a future that, against all odds, seemed to be blossoming. I contacted Mr. Ahmed. The call was difficult, fraught with tension. I told him I was getting married. To Fatima. I asked for his consent, a formality more than a necessity, but one I felt was important given our shared history. There was a stunned silence on the other end, even longer and more profound than the first time I had called him. Then his voice, when it came, was not just outraged, but utterly furious. "You are doing what?" he thundered, the phone practically vibrating with his anger. "You are plotting to elope with her. After everything she did, after the shame she brought upon our family, you dare to ask for my consent to marry her?" He vehemently disagreed, his words a torrent of accusations and accusations of betrayal. Mr. Ahmed's furious rejection, though expected, still stung. He accused me of scheming, of somehow using Fatima to exact revenge or gain some advantage, a notion that was both absurd and deeply hurtful. The idea that I, Benjamin, the software engineer who had simply tried to avoid a cultural entanglement, was now being painted as a master manipulator, was almost laughable if it weren't so frustrating. His words confirmed what I already knew. His blessing wasn't coming. But by then, it didn't matter. Fatima and I had found something unexpected in the aftermath of chaos, a fragile connection forged in shared trauma and a longing for a future unburdened by the past. Our wedding was small, intimate. Just a few friends, no family from either side. It felt right, a quiet declaration of defiance against the shadows of tradition and expectation that had once threatened to consume us. Fatima, in a simple white dress, looked radiant, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of relief and nascent joy. Holding her hand, I realized that the anger I once felt towards her had been replaced by a deep understanding. We were both survivors, albeit of different battles, now facing the world together. Life with Fatima was different. The cultural nuances, though no longer a direct threat, were still there, woven into the fabric of her being. She spoke of her family often, a wistful longing in her voice despite their rejection. Her dreams of American citizenship, once a desperate means to an end, had evolved. She pursued her education with a fierce determination, enrolling in online courses, eager to build a life for herself here, not just escape her past. She was brilliant, quickly grasping complex concepts, and her drive was infectious. I watched her transform, shedding the last vestiges of her former self, blossoming into a confident, independent woman. But the past, as they say, has a way of lingering. One crisp autumn evening, about a year into our marriage, we were out for a walk in a quiet neighborhood park. The leaves were turning, painting the trees in fiery hues of red and gold. It was a picture of serene American life, a world away from the dusty, chaotic streets of Pakistan. Suddenly, Fatima stopped, her hand gripping my arm tightly. Her face, usually so composed now, was pale, her eyes wide with fear. "Benjamin," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Look." I followed her gaze. Across the park, seated on a bench beneath a large oak tree, was a man. He was dressed in traditional Pakistani attire, a long shalwar kameez and a prayer cap. His back was to us, but something about his posture, the way he held himself, sent a jolt of recognition through Fatima. "It's him," she breathed, her voice trembling. "It's Uncle Tariq." Uncle Tariq, Mr. Ahmed's brother, a prominent, deeply conservative figure in their family, a man known for his unwavering adherence to tradition and his stern demeanor. My blood ran cold. How could he be here, and why was he watching us? We quickly ducked, trying to remain unseen. Fatima was shaking, her fear palpable. He's looking for me," she stammered. "He's probably been sent to find me, to bring me back, or worse." The implication of worse hung heavy in the air, a chilling reminder of the honor-killing threats. I tried to reassure her, but my own mind was racing. This wasn't a coincidence. Uncle Tariq was known for his influence, for his deep connections. Had he tracked us? Was this a threat, a reconnaissance mission? We stayed hidden until he finally rose and walked away, disappearing into the twilight. The incident shook us both. We lived in a constant state of heightened awareness after that, always looking over our shoulders, always scanning crowds. Our once peaceful home felt less like a sanctuary and more like a fortress under siege. Fatima became withdrawn, the fear of being discovered a constant companion. A few weeks later, an anonymous letter arrived in our mailbox. No return address, just a plain white envelope. Inside, a single, grainy photograph. It was a picture of Fatima and me, taken from a distance, walking hand in hand in that very park. On the back, scrawled in neat, deliberate handwriting, were two words, "We know." The message was clear, chillingly precise. It wasn't just Uncle Tariq. Someone was actively watching us, documenting our lives. The feeling of being hunted, which I thought I had left behind in Pakistan, had resurfaced with terrifying clarity. We debated what to do. Go to the police? But what could they do? We had no proof, just a photograph and a vague threat. Besides, the concept of honor killing, while horrific, wasn't something easily prosecuted in the U.S. without direct evidence of a plot. We were back to being on our own. I tightened our home security, installing cameras, reinforcing doors and windows. Fatima grew more reclusive, spending most of her time indoors, her bright spark dulled by the constant fear. It broke my heart to see her like that, a prisoner in her own home. One afternoon, about a month after the photograph arrived, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, a foreign dial code. My heart pounded. I answered cautiously. "Benjamin," a deep, familiar voice said, the sound sending a jolt of ice through me. It was Mr. Ahmed. I hadn't spoken to him since our explosive conversation about the wedding. His voice was no longer filled with rage, but with a strained urgency. "You need to listen to me, Benjamin, carefully." "What is it, Mr. Ahmed?" I asked, my voice tight. "Fatima is in danger," he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "More than you know. Uncle Tariq, he has become obsessed. He believes her actions have brought unforgivable shame upon our family. He's rallied others. He won't rest until he brings her back. Or, worse, he intends to restore the family honor." My blood ran cold. "We know he's here. We saw him. We got a photo." "He knows you know," Mr. Ahmed replied, a hint of desperation in his tone. "He's testing you. He's been working with an organization, a network of very traditional individuals. They have resources. They have eyes everywhere. Fatima is not safe. You are not safe with her." "What do you want us to do?" I demanded, a surge of protective fury overriding my fear. "I have a proposition," he said. "A way out. For Fatima. For both of you. But it requires your trust, Benjamin, and a great deal of risk." He paused, and I could almost hear him steeling himself. "I have been working against Tariq subtly, from the shadows. I do not condone what he is doing. He has gone too far. I want to help my daughter. I will arrange for both of you to disappear. A new identity, a new life, somewhere far away. But it must be done quickly. He is closing in." My mind reeled. Mr. Ahmed, the man who had disowned his daughter, now offering to help us disappear? It was an unexpected twist, almost too good to be true. Was it a trap? A more elaborate scheme? Or was he genuinely remorseful, trying to undo the damage his brother was inflicting? "Why, Mr. Ahmed?" I asked, suspicion lacing my voice. "Why now? After everything?" He sighed, a long, weary sound. "Because she is still my daughter, Benjamin, and because Tariq's fanaticism threatens to destroy not just her, but our entire family's reputation, my business. He is out of control. This has become bigger than just Fatima's shame. It is a matter of power, of extremism. I am trying to protect what little honor my family has left, and that includes my daughter's life. You, Benjamin, you are her best chance. You made her happy, you made her strong, and you were brave enough to stand up to her, even when she was misguided." His words, though still tinged with his traditional mindset, carried a ring of truth. It was a strange alliance, born out of shared fear and a desperate need for survival. I glanced at Fatima, who was listening intently, her eyes wide with a mixture of hope and terror. "What's the plan?" I asked. My decision made. It was a leap of faith, but staying put was no longer an option. The plan was intricate, almost impossibly so. It involved dummy flights, safe houses, and a network of contacts Mr. Ahmed had cultivated over years of international business. It was a race against time, a perilous journey into the unknown. We spent the next few days in a blur of packing essentials, severing ties, and preparing for a life that would be entirely new. Every rustle outside our window, every unfamiliar car, sent jolts of panic through us. One cold, rainy night, a black car with tinted windows pulled up to our curbside. A stern-faced man, one of Mr. Ahmed's trusted liaisons, motioned for us to get in. We said goodbye to our home, to the life we had carefully built, with a mixture of sadness and grim determination. As the car pulled away, I glanced back at the house, wondering if we would ever see it again. Our journey was a blur of anonymous airports, hushed conversations, and constantly changing locations. We were given new identities, new stories, painstakingly crafted to be foolproof. We ended up in a small, quiet town in rural Canada, a place so removed from the bustling metropolises we were used to. It felt like another world. Snow blanketed the ground, the air was crisp and clean, and the silence was almost deafening after the constant hum of fear we had lived with. Here, under the vast, unblinking sky, we began to rebuild. Fatima thrived in the quiet solitude, finding peace in nature, pursuing her studies with renewed vigor. I found work as a remote cybersecurity consultant, the irony not lost on me, protecting others' digital lives while our own physical one remained a carefully guarded secret. We still think about Pakistan, about Mr. Ahmed, about the family Fatima left behind. Sometimes the ghosts of the past resurface, a sudden noise, a suspicious glance. But here we are safe. Here we are truly free. Fatima and I, once adversaries, now allies, bound by a shared past and a future we are building, brick by painful brick, in the quiet embrace of a new life. It's a strange love story, born from deception and danger, but one that continues to unfold, proving that even in the darkest of circumstances, hope, and even love, can find a way to bloom.